Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The state collects all kinds of taxes and returns a portion of those back to counties and cities. And the way that that's currently reapportioned is every 10 years based on the census. What this bill will do is take data from the UT Boyd Center. They already know how many people live in each county and each city with an estimate, and this will be able to update annually instead of every 10 years. So once a year, the state shared revenues will be reapportioned based on new numbers. This will be more fair and equitable based on the current data. And with that explanation, I renew my motion.
Representative Stevens renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Hardaway.
Thank you. Sponsor, thank you for the bill. How will the reassessment populations impact federal dollars?
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill only deals with state shared revenues, sales taxes, gas taxes, liquor taxes, everything that the state has that is shared with counties and cities would be affected by this bill. I do not believe it affects any federal revenues.
Representative Hardaway.
All right, I'll give it to sponsor afterwards.
Representative Pearson, you recognize.
Thank you, Speaker and Sponsor. My concern with this change, I don't know the Boyd Center very well, Boyd Center for Business and Economic Research at UT. What I do know is every 10 years when the census is happening federally, there's a very aggressive effort to make sure that everyone is counted. Everyone in homes, people who are unhoused, and I do not know if the same level of resources even exist for this department at UT to be able to do a similar thing. And so I'm very concerned about potential undercounting that will happen, that will lead to a disproportionate amount of tax dollars going to places where they otherwise would not go. And so how does this center ensure that every Tennessean is counted? And this would be annually, you said?
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There were several questions in that question. First off, they have estimates. They don't have the exact amount. Second, yes, it is annually.
Representative Pearson.
What was that?
It's lunch, sorry. Representative Pearson.
Thank you. Look, to all of my colleagues, we're people making their best estimate, their best guesses. I understand that. The concern is like the money is real, right? And the consequences of potentially not having the resources that we need because this group is using estimates, using data, publicly available data, all of those things is one thing when you're making assumptions or able to make some assumptions for decisions, or we need data for information about what may be going on in our state. But when you're saying tax dollars that people are paying into may not actually go to their community because the system at UT isn't an all-out effort as the census is every 10 years to make sure that everybody in our population is counted. You can have undercounting, you can have guesstimates or estimates that are wrong, but the consequences of that, at least as I understand your recommendation, is that we would then use their estimates, which may be wrong, to proportion out where tax dollars are going in our state. And so if their estimates end up being wrong by hundreds of thousands, let's say, you will have counties being underrepresented, and then up here, the decision being made not to give some counties money because that estimate or that guesstimate was off because UT didn't have the resources to go and make sure everyone is counted. While I understand there may be some challenges with the census every 10 years and wanting to be as responsive as we can to the needs of our citizens and where population lies, the challenge is actually in the attempt to try this every year, the attempt to have these estimates every year fluctuating and changing, and inaccuracies that will lead to undercounting and lead to tax money not going to people or places or counties or towns and cities where it otherwise should. And so that's why I would rather us leave this in the hands of the census, which spends lots of money to get it as right as possible, rather than to the guesstimates, as it relates to having real definitive dollars being spent on those estimates by the folks at UT.
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in the bill, it does allow for counties and cities to still perform a special census if they don't agree with the numbers. But this is how Florida does it. It works great there, and no cities and counties have to do a special census if they believe they've got more people in the interim while waiting for the next census. So this is also going to save counties and cities millions of dollars over the 10 years that they don't have to spend on these census projects that are going on all over the state right now to try to get more of this shared revenue.
Representative Pearson.
But again, just to prove your numbers, you then have to spend money, right, to do that. And we don't want to, I don't want for us to be burdening our cities and counties, which I know we even struggle with in Shelby County to do. And, you know, we better than Florida. And so I don't want to copy what Florida's doing. Tennessee should be able to have systems in place that ensure an accuracy of resources go to the places that the census says. And you still have not shown that UT will be able to do that aggressive level of work to make sure people who are unhoused are uncounted and are counted accurately, or people who might not otherwise be in the same location are being counted accurately. Are people going to be going door to door, making sure that the neighbors are being counted, right? Like, there's a reason the census is every 10 years because of the amount of effort that is required, and this doesn't seem to allow for that. So that's why I can support it.
Representative Stevens, anything? No, good. Representative Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, quick question: if you have a fast-growing county, and this new estimate comes out, the county would get more money. Is that accurate?
Representative Stevens.
That is correct. Annually, the populations would be adjusted based on the new estimates and then in comparison with the state as a whole with the new estimate. So if you are growing quickly, you would probably get a bigger bite of the pie each year instead of having to wait for the 10 years to get your increase.
Representative Freeman.
Thank you, sponsor. Mr. Speaker, Representative Sparks, my good friend Mike Sparks, has a rapidly growing district. Could you recognize him to speak on this?
No. Representative Sparks.
I don't know why he's picking on me, but we do represent the two fastest growing districts in the state, and I think it's a creative piece of legislation. And let's face it, many people don't respond to censuses. They don't answer the doors. So our infrastructure has been hit really hard. Our schools, our roads, corrections, a lot of areas. So I want to thank the sponsor for a great piece of legislation.
Thank you. Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move previous question.
Previous question been called. Is there objection? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of House Bill 780 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. As every member voted, as any member change their vote. Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 92, 2 nays.
House Bill 780 having received a constitutional majority, hereby declare passed by objection. The motion reads table.